It is Tuesday, October the 21st, 1:41 in the afternoon when we record the All 32 podcast with yours truly, Mike Giardi. We, of course, a proud member of the CLNS Media Network and also brought to you by PrizePicks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app in North America. Download the app today. Use the code CLNS to get 50 on your lineups off your first 5 PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. I got to tell you, I'm so excited about this guest. And I say this every week, but I'm really excited by the caliber of guests we get. Mike Sando is the senior writer, NFL writer for The Athletic. He's been covering the league, I think, since 1998. Mike, do I have that right?
That's right, yeah.
98. I think I have probably consumed all of your work from the moment you started at ESPN and followed you everywhere since. This includes podcasts, Mike. So you could probably get a restraining order out on me. Like that guy maybe you don't want me within 500 feet of you, but it's really outstanding content. And I'm excited to sort of bring your thoughts on the Patriots and the quarterback in particular, Drake Maye, here to the show today.
Hey, I sure appreciate it. And I love having different new narratives on teams. You know, the Patriots were stuck in one for so long after Tom Brady retired with Belichick and the whole thing. And so it's nice to have something that you can kind of look forward to that seems like it's going to be exciting.
Mike, it's funny around here, and you can only imagine, we talk about this was Title Town for like 20 years. It was not only the Patriots, but the Bruins, the Red Sox, the Celtics. And then there was this period now with the football team of about 5 years where they, had sunk pretty low. And fans are calling in sports radio. I'm getting in my mentions. I'm getting emails, comments on the website. So great to be back. I'm like, you weren't gone all that long.
This is not a Cleveland situation, right? No. Where you just go on forever wondering what's going to happen. But I do think that, it's taken probably poor Drake Maye, but it almost like there's almost like a washing of the hands there. Like I live in the Seattle area, okay, and it's not the same scale. But when Mike Holmgren was the coach for a long time, went to a Super Bowl, they had success, and when he was done, they brought in Jim Mora, and it was just like 1 year, and then they reset with a star, Pete Carroll, right? It's just like it took almost like that lag time where somebody else was sacrificed in between, and it wasn't really their fault. They didn't really get a fair shake, but it was a transitionary period. And I feel like that's a little bit with the Patriots too, where Belichick was a long time. Mayo was kind of was still related to Bill more than Vrabel is. Vrabel was a player, but he wasn't like on the staff all those years. So this is a clean break. The quarterback's a clean break. And it just kind of feels right.
Yeah, 5-2 heading into this weekend, where they'll play the Cleveland Browns, who are coming off a win themselves over the struggling Miami Dolphins. And I guess I want to ask you this question to start, Mike. And I was doing a podcast last night with my friend Andrew Callahan from the Boston Herald. We do one after the games every Monday night. And he said to me, and the question is simple: how good are they? And when he emailed me the question, I sat there and looked at it and I go, all right, they're 5-2, 4 wins in a row. And then when I got to actually answer the question on the podcast, I said, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I know that's not the answer everybody wants. And I'm not trying to denigrate what they've done, but the schedule being what it is.
Yeah.
And the schedule being what it is coming up, I'm not sure I totally know. How do you feel from the outside looking in about where the Patriots are right now?
And if they I agree too. I think our excitement for them is just over. We know what they've been, and they're not that. So clearly they've beaten some bad teams, but that's part of this too, is like you beat the bad teams. You're not losing to those teams, or in some cases, you're not winning super close, right? You pull away, even though it was difficult in Tennessee early. They're actually down 10-3.
Yep.
And you're going, oh my gosh, this shows, they're not there. They win the game 31-13, both sides of the ball, making plays. I think they scored on defense. So we still need to see what they really are. But I think that, and that was the point of my column on Monday, and the Pick Six column was, I think we can see enough from Drake Maye now to know that he's not like a fraud, or it's not like his numbers are just manufactured. You can actually see good play from him. You can see him handling situations well. You can see him making difficult, accurate throws on the move. So I think those are things that are probably going to carry over. I still do have questions about their roster. I think we had them coming into the year. But when you look at this AFC and, the way teams are up and down, it's like everyone's got their issues. We're talking about whether John Harbaugh is nearing the end in Baltimore, right? We're Kansas City looks great now, but hasn't always looked great. Buffalo, we know the Patriots just beat them. So, Buffalo's good with Josh Allen, but they have their issues. So I think a lot of teams you can say that about. We just measure you on, hey, what have you done with your opportunities? And I think that they've done a nice job with their opportunities.
Yeah, that's what I'm wrapping my head around. It's like, hey, they're beating who's in front of them, and that's all you can ask them to do.
Yeah.
We can talk about like, well, the schedule's this, the schedule's that, but you don't slip up against these teams, and that
Yeah.
says something about where you are as the program starts to build with Mike Vrabel, who's been here for all of what, 8 months.
Yeah, and absolutely. And look, they're going to play. Jim Schwartz is going to coordinate this defense for Cleveland, and they could have a tough day.
Mm-hmm.
Green Bay lost to them. So if the Patriots are in a tough game or they lose a 13-10 to game, like it doesn't mean that we discard everything and it's a panic. I think we have to understand this is a long-term process, and you're just really looking for, are these sustainable building blocks? Okay, do we think the coach is good? Do we
Mm-hmm.
think the quarterback's good? Do we think the offensive coordinator is good in that role? Which I think Josh McDaniels is the perfect OC there, because New England's home a little bit, and he's not going to be hired for a head coaching job. Sorry, Josh, but at this stage, after a couple of the way those went,
Yeah.
he's probably not going to be the first person that gets that job, even if Drake Maye does well. So when you look at those types of fundamentals, knowing, okay, quarterback's good, head coach is good leader, and then the offensive coordinator's good. That's what you're always worried about, is losing the OC. Where's Josh going? Right. So those are some things that I look at to say, okay, I'm willing to bet on those stocks. Like, that's what we're really looking at, is what's the stock? What are the fundamentals of the stock? Right.
Yeah.
Not, okay, we happen to be in if you're talking about the market analogy, if it's a bull market, maybe all the stocks go up, even if the fundamentals of the company aren't good. Right. So against a bad schedule, that can happen. But we think the fundamentals of the company are pretty good, don't we?
Yeah, I think 100%. And I keep saying that they're a year away from having the roster, one more offseason cycle from having the roster that they really want, the roster that they envision, some of the flexibility. So to be able to win while you're still not at that point yet says a lot about sort of what he's instilled and what he's getting out of some of the players that maybe we were unsure about whether they could be good players or not, or contributing guys. Kayshon Boutte being a perfect example. Like,
Yeah.
had a decent year last year, but you're all of a sudden Kayshon Boutte is like a money receiver. When they need to make a play, he's making a play for him.
That's what's interesting to me, because they spent so big in free agency, but I don't think that we're putting together charts saying that they hit home runs with all their free agents, right? Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And maybe
Yeah.
you know more than me, but I mean, would you say their free agency was a net success, disappointment? Does the 5-2 make it a success? That's the interesting part to me, was like, I still don't know that I totally feel like they hit a bunch of home runs or something, but
Yeah. You know what it felt like, Mike? It feels like at this point, at least, they hit some singles and doubles.
yeah,
Like, Morgan Moses is not the best right tackle in the league. He's 34. He's coming off 2 years where he missed games with injury. You start to wonder about it. But through 7 games, Morgan Moses has been solid. Not great, but
fine.
solid, right? Base hit, like better than, and certainly way better than what they had last year. A guy, Demontre Jacobs, who I don't even believe is in the league. Same thing with Garrett Bradbury at center. They signed Ben Brown last year, who's still on the roster, off the street, off the Raiders practice squad. And 4 days later, he's starting at center for them and did for the next 10 weeks. Like, that wasn't the plan. Now you have Garrett Bradbury, who has some faults, but he's playing solid football. He's giving you time where Jared Wilson doesn't have to play at center. He's playing at guard right now. It's enabling you to get your best five out there. And I think that's kind of a lot of what's happened, where Carlton Davis hasn't been awesome, but he's better than what you had. Like, that's just sort of way the entire free agency process has gone for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're not talking about the big hole at right tackle, like you said, or something, which you could easily be doing. We're not really talking a lot about a huge void here or there. So just getting to good enough is a big
Right.
victory for this team that wasn't good enough in so many spots.
Yeah, no question. All right. So the headline in The Athletic, the pick six column, was Drake May's rise looks real and it could change the AFC's complexion. You are as plugged in as anybody. And for those of you who don't know, and most of you do, but those of you that don't, Mike writes a column every year, Quarterback Tiers, where he talks to 50 different evaluators. The evaluators change from year to year. They're not always the same, and gets this great read. And they put quarterbacks in tiers. May was in tier 3 to start the season, which was fair based on last year. I think 22nd or 23rd in the overall rankings. What are your people now telling you about what they've seen from Drake Maye through 7 weeks?
Yeah. So I actually talked to a couple people that were a little bit more skeptical of him coming
Mhm.
into his career. Everyone had their favorites in the draft coming out that year. And so I talked to a couple of guys who were just not sure coming out on him. And one of them basically was like, I think we can see for the first time, even the skeptics, people around the league are saying, this looks like it could be a guy, could be a real guy. And
Yeah.
so, and then I think there's some that would still say some of the stuff. Hey, we got to see who they played. We got to see where it's going to go. But I like what I see, and he's doing better than I thought that he would. I think so much of the conversation last year was, I'm going to punt on an eval because it was such a bad situation. I like the way he handled it. I like some of the things I saw, but can you really evaluate somebody in that environment? It was just from a coaching and from a supporting cast, it was just difficult to do. Whereas I feel like this year now people are saying, oh, did you see that throw? Wow, look at how accurate he is on the move. I think the one thing we want to see is you got to protect yourself too.
Yeah.
And there's video of Tom Brady getting lit up early in his career too. One of the most famous ones, you probably know the play, but I mean, he got his helmet knocked off. Remember?
Yep.
I don't know how early that was in his career, but it felt early in his career. I think
Fairly
that's
early,
one
yeah.
thing that we see with sometimes the young quarterbacks is just they're still getting used to the speed of those guys out there. And the idea that your availability is not a personal issue, it's a team thing. So I think one of the great things that Maye is doing this year is he's realizing the football is not his. There's a lot of people's livelihood that depends on whether he protects that football or not. And I think he's protecting it. So that's a hard thing for the young guys to learn. Sometimes they want to go out there and make plays and make decisions. They don't realize that when you risk that football, it risks the whole team, the whole operation. So he's done a great job on that. Now just don't get drilled by that second defender coming in, like we've seen. He's going to go in the tent and that sort of a thing. But I think those are little things to work out, like the fundamental stuff there with his footwork, his eyes down the field, his ability to make plays on the move, his knowing when, having a feel of when to take off.
Yeah.
I guess a 19-yard scramble when they're backed up last week. Those types of things are a feel for the game that just not everybody has. Like, to me, when you watch some of these other guys, Trevor Lawrence or some of these guys that have the talent, you don't necessarily see that. You don't necessarily see the feel. So I think some of those things have come together for him in a nice way to where even some of the people that were skeptical are tipping their cap.
Yeah, I want to. It's funny because I want to. He deserves credit, right? He's the one who's putting this together. But I've talked to the coaches about this, and Josh McDaniels. I'm like, sometimes Josh, the way he's playing, I can see you in his head. The stuff that you're talking about, like
Yeah.
one of the big things they pushed during the spring and into the summer was like, take the profit, man. Like a 5-yard gain is like fine. You don't have to hunt for the big plays all the time, and sort of getting him in that mode where he thinks that way. And then now he's finding the balance of, okay, there's the 5 there, but I think the way coverage is, I can push it down the field and making those plays more often than not. I mean, the rate of explosive plays and deep throws that he's had over the last 4 or 5 weeks have been outrageous, but like, you can just sort of see it all slow down for him a little bit and come together. And that can be, at that position, a beautiful thing when that starts to click.
It is. And that's one of the things. I may get into this in a future column. I didn't do it this last time as much, but I really like the idea of looking at these quarterbacks. Just take the 2024 class. It's a package deal. So who do you want to bet on Maye / Josh, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to bet on Jaden Daniels / Cliff Kingsbury, right? Do you want to bet on Caleb Williams / Ben Johnson? And of which of you go through all of them, Zach Robinson with Michael Penix, whatever, JJ McCarthy, Kevin O'Connell. I'm probably missing one in there.
Sean Payton and
Sean Payton and Bo Nix. So and obviously who plays quarterback is the most important thing. I mean, there's a lot of guys got coaching jobs off the quarterback. So, but do you feel, who do you feel about in terms of, I'm confident in this quarterback, for one, I'm confident in this play caller, whatever. And then I'm confident in the combination of the two. Right. And so if you were to look at Josh McDaniels and Drake Maye, like, what would your concern be? Like, what are you worried about? I don't have too many right now. Like, when I look at Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, I'm a little worried on the Caleb side, right? Just I have a couple worries there for him in some of these. So I think that's kind of an interesting way to look at this, is like, what would you be worried about right now for the Patriots with Maye and Josh? And I don't have, like, I'm not worried of, like I said, Josh getting a head coaching job necessarily. I think this looks like it could go for a while. Stability in the organization. I think they're going to be firing Mike Vrabel, right? That sort of a thing.
Yeah.
And then for Maye himself, his makeup, his physical ability, right? There's nothing there yet. There's nothing there right now where I'm worried. I think that's a good way to look at it.
It's a great way to look at it. And what's funny is when they hired McDaniels, there were some who were like, his offense is a little stale. What success has he had without Tom Brady? I always point to those people and say, just look at 2020, the COVID year, which the Patriots punted on essentially. And Cam Newton was signed about 3 weeks before training camp. And as we know, Cam could not throw at that point in his career. And they went 7-9, but he cobbled together an actual, like a decent offense when he had no parts. His best receiver was Demir Bird. Like that's what Josh was working with, and they still ended up okay. They were like a half decent offense.
What was funny about that was the other day when they had the 93-yard touchdown drive, I called up like a list of the longest drives, like Patriot drives. I just wanted to see. It felt like May had a number of them already.
Yeah.
And what was funny was like that Cam Newton had a few of them too. I was like, whoa, what? Cam Newton played like how many games of New England? And he has had several long drives. And I was just like, that kind of plays to what you're saying. I was like surprised to see his name on there. I also think, Josh is a very detail-oriented coach.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's kind of a hard coach. I think some of those things are difficult to translate to the whole team, right? But I think they're really easy to translate to a quarterback who's got thick skin and what is willing to learn.
Yeah, and I think
that's probably a good fit.
That.
Josh's coaching style is probably a good fit for this quarterback, even though as we've seen sometimes when he's gone to different places, it's been harder to implement that on the whole team without somebody like Tom Brady to be your acolyte, to be your guy to really do it for you, right?
Yeah.
And so that's interesting to me.
Yeah, it's turned out to be, at least through 7 weeks, a fantastic marriage. When we talk about quarterbacks, and obviously a lot of these guys get drafted because of the physicals, right? Caleb Williams can make throws that very few guys in the league can make. Like you could compare him to Josh and Patrick, some of the the off-platform stuff that he does. Drake is, as I've talked about for a year and a half now, is one of those guys that can access pretty much every area of the field with his arm. But what you're seeing now with him is the mental aspect of it. And I think that's the real challenge, right? You can't totally know, especially with some of these college offenses, how it's going to translate to the pros, how a now 23-year-old is going to be able to manage a huddle of guys of varying backgrounds and ages and whatever, who want their money and touches and, the whole thing. And the mental aspect of this to me, since the Pittsburgh game, which was the week 3 game, which by and large he played really well in. There was the 2 turnovers, Mike, and obviously the interception in the red zone was poor choice of throws. He needed to put more arc on. He tried to put it on the line. And then the fumble where he got loose with the football at midfield, Herbig knocked it free. And that was essentially what, after 5 turnovers, that's the thing that cost him the football game. But since then, it's like the protecting the football thing that you were talking about. The light went on, protecting himself in the pocket better. Still some issues, obviously, with Tennessee, but like the mental aspect of the game for him suddenly has clarified. I have a quote from someone. I wrote the story on Monday. It's the assistant coach whose team had played him, Mike, recently. He said he always had the playmaking ability, but the way he's placing the ball this year is an eye-opener. He's doing the kind of stuff that Patrick, Josh, and Lamar do on a weekly basis with the kind of stress he's putting on a defense. What do you take away? Because you can't take it all.
Yeah. I think also his willingness to stand in there, man, he takes some shots and delivers the ball, which not everybody does. A lot of guys' eyes come down, or their first instinct is to bail and run. And it's hard to coach out of people. It's hard to coach people to just willing to stay in there. You obviously don't want them taking hits, but man, he got crushed a couple times when he stand in there and delivered. So I always like to see that because I think you've got to win from the pocket to really be a consistent player. Even good, spectacular players, who make big plays with their legs. If you can't be consistent from the pocket, it's going to catch up to you. So I think that's something we've really seen from him.
It's a great point because look at Lamar, right? Came in as this, incredible athlete, incredible with the ball in his hands, capable of making all kinds of throws. But his progression, I remember talking to Devin McCourty about this somewhere around 2020, and he's like, Mike, it's not the same guy anymore. Like used to be, we want to keep him in the pocket. He's like, now you keep him in the pocket. He's just as willing and likely to burn you that way as he was when he was running around making plays with his legs or, getting into a scramble situation and hitting you over the top. So that is the fine line you've got to walk, and he's walking it.
Yeah, I agree. So, let's not get the gold jacket yet. Let's not
100%.
get it out. Let's remind ourselves there's going to be bad days. He's going to have a 3-interception game. They all do. There's going to be games where he has terrible games. So, let's not go week to week. I think I describe it as a stock. You don't sell your 401k when there's a bad day in the market, right? So you can have some ups and downs, but I feel like the trajectory, even with some ups and downs, is getting higher, and you can see it this year.
Yeah, the growth is never linear, right? You
Yeah.
just don't go from here to here like that. There's going to be valleys,
Yep.
and that could happen this week. Cleveland's defense, we talked about, really good. Schwartz is going to hit him with some stuff. They'll test that offensive line, and maybe this is the week that offensive line breaks down a little bit more. Maybe this is the week where he has a brain fart and he makes a mistake.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that what happened over the first 7 weeks is an apparition.
Doesn't mean it's going to happen every week,
Yeah.
So look at the Patriots right now for the first time in a while. Like, I'm interested in watching them.
Yeah, hey, you and me both, and I had to one way or the other.
Yeah, you could just kind of ignore them for a while, and it was the same old story. So this is fun.
This episode brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day on PrizePicks. Being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this football season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Plenty of football to talk about, but the basketball season kicking off. Did you know PrizePicks running a special on Tuesday? More than a half point for Steph Curry. You pair that with something else, you win money. It's just that simple. Again, doesn't have to be basketball. You can cross sports with whatever you like. 2 players up to 6, more or less, and that gets you up to 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks. It's simple to play. You can cash in. PrizePicks gets you action in more than 40 plus states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. PrizePicks, the only app that offers stacks. This is awesome. Meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Yours truly might have done that with Amon-Ra St. Brown on the Monday Night Football game in terms of receiving yards, and it might have paid very handsomely for your friend. So think about that. Want to pick more on Josh Allen's pass yards, rushing touchdowns as he gets ready for a big game coming off the bye? Just do that with stacks. You can also follow other PrizePicks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Now, it's a time where we have to get serious here. We have to talk about life and what matters. And what matters for me is making sure that my family is taken care of were something to happen to me. Knock on wood. I hope that doesn't happen. But if it does, you need to be prepared. And I never thought about this. And then I had a kid. Then I had another kid. You're paying for a house. And you say, how can I make sure that these people are going to be taken care of? Well, it's really simple. Get involved with Ethos. It's an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy to protect your family's future in minutes, not months. There's no complicated process. It's 100% online. Who doesn't love that? No medical exam required. Think about that. And you get just answer a few health questions and get a quote in as little as 10 minutes, and you get same-day coverage without ever leaving your house. I mean, I'm all about that. I'm a shut-in. I like my house. Life insurance is more affordable than you think. With Ethos, you can get a free quote and customize a rate that fits your budget. You can get up to $3 million in coverage, or different approach. Just $2 a day can get you coverage. So whatever fits your needs, Ethos is there for you. And it's incredibly trustworthy. 3 million families have completed their applications and trusted Ethos to help find the right coverage. It has 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot, over 2,500 reviews. So protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/all32. That's ethos, ethos.com/all32. I want to switch. I don't want to keep you too long, but I wanted to hit a couple things around the league with quarterbacks, and Buffalo was one. And we've talked about Josh. We talked about sort of what's happened in the last 2 games. They lose to the Patriots, then they turn around and lose to the Falcons. They're coming off the bye week this week.
Yep.
People in Buffalo getting a little concerned about the way the roster has been put together, and if there are some holes there. It's kind of funny as I was looking at it. Safety, pass rush still. They're having the wide receiver conversation there once again. But has Josh gotten into some bad habits the last couple of weeks, and is that because of maybe him seeing what's around him?
I don't know about that. I feel like they've just lacked some juice. I think even they beat the Saints. It was kind of a listless game. It was close. And so I'm not 100% sure why that is. I think sometimes when you're on the top and you're the team that's targeted, certainly in the division, they're the target. But every time they play, they're playing someone who's up to play Josh Allen. And I think that's hard to sustain. I do. I think we've seen Kansas City have a little bit of that too. They sort of get it going, when they need to. With the difference with the Bills is, I don't know if they have the firepower on offense at the receiver position. They used a first round pick for a receiver who doesn't really get uncovered. very well, not
Yeah.
super instinctive. So I they've walked that line of like, they pushed a few years ago. They tried to sign. They got Von Miller, that type of a thing. I feel like they've retrenched a little. There's kind of ebbs and flows to your life cycle, and they just kind of feel like, hey, we got Josh Allen. We can figure this out by the end to be in the mix. But be interesting for me to see at the trade deadline. I don't know. It's easier said than done sometimes to get a difference maker, but I feel like they're hurting a little bit at the receiver position and may need that. Now, defensively is its own thing. I think they may be closer to a bottom half defense than a top half defense. One interesting nugget that I wrote in my column from an opponent was, I think their defense is kind of small and a lot better off when they have the lead. So, maybe it is finding a way or to unlock the offense a little bit more, just be a little bit more consistent with it, put up some points, make it easier for that defense. They just haven't to me had the same juice the last few weeks. So we'll see after the bye. Maybe the Patriots get their attention and there's some pressure on them and they've got to step it up.
Yeah, and probably in some way, shape, or form could help them a little bit in terms of the motivation. Like thinking that the vision has been a cakewalk for the last whatever 4 or 5 years. That's
They're
not the case
24-6 since Brady retired coming into this year, and one of those losses was Week 18 last year when they played two other quarterbacks besides Josh Allen because they're going to the playoffs. So that's domination. They had from I think Brady's retirement through last season, only Kansas City had as good of a record in their division. So it's going to get a little bit harder now with New England already beating them once in a legitimate game, not a Week 18 rest your starter game.
Yeah, and Patriot fans remember that because of that would have been the number one pick. As I said, Sean McDermott and the Bills out tanked you in that game. They were intent on not letting you get the number one overall pick.
Would they have taken Caleb Williams? What would they have done if they had the
That's a great question. I think they probably would have taken Caleb Williams. I think they would have just fallen in line with the consensus and done that. And who knows what that would look like, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they would want to go back and do that now. I think they'd be happy with the guy they got.
I was just about to transition to that. There were there were 7 starting quarterbacks from that draft class, 6 in the first round, Spencer Rattler being the other one. JJ McCarthy, obviously, because of the injuries, hasn't played very much here. The other 5 guys have. If you're redrafting that, is it essentially come down to Drake versus Daniels?
It may. Now, I think the combination of Knicks with Sean Payton could be good over time, but I don't know. I haven't felt it as much this year with, and now shoot, Bo Nix scored 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter the other day,
Yeah.
2 rushing, 2 passing. So I'm not being critical of him, but I don't know that he's gone to the top for me. I think, if you would have asked me this question, even late last season, I might have just stuck with, hey, let's just see Caleb Williams over time. But I think enough stuff's kind of come out and we've seen, and it's just sometimes it's just how these guys are wired, and I feel like I like the guy who I know can take the criticism and seeks the criticism and wants to get better that way. I think that's been the tried and true formula for the guys who are great. And I don't feel that, as much just naturally with Caleb Williams. When Caleb Williams doesn't connect with Troy Aikman for the conference call, like he's kind of dismissive of it in almost like a who's Troy Aikman way. Whereas
Right.
I feel like to me, that's emblematic of something. That's not a good sign to me. I would want my guy to be, to be more like, I get to talk to Aikman. Oh my gosh, when that's a little bit of what I sense with a Jaden Daniels or a Drake Maye. I feel like those guys can't get enough, and the coaching and the criticism. And I don't necessarily, I feel like Caleb Williams is fighting the impression that it's the other way to me. Now he's getting tough coaching now too from Ben Johnson, and we'll see. It's early. He's in year 1 of this thing too, but you would probably say coming into the season, the Bears, are further down the road in their build than the Patriots were. And Drake Maye's the same number of games into a new coordinator.
Yep.
I mean, I feel a lot better about Drake Maye right now than I do Caleb Williams, even though
Yep.
it's early for him too.
I mean, there's been a lot written about Caleb. It's an interesting case study because he was one of the first real big NIL guys, right? Living atop some skyscraper in by the campus in LA and driving a Lamborghini or whatever it was. And different guys are wired differently, and maybe that's success to him. Whereas there are other guys that come in the league and they want, like, no, the success is me winning a Super Bowl and then winning another one, and then that's the goal.
It's a fascinating thing. It really is. And I don't want to just be the old guy, hey, the old school way and that type of a thing. Because I do think times change.
Hmm.
And look, my kids were probably raised a little differently than I was raised, right?
Yep.
But there's something to that to me. There's something to those guys who just have the Mamba mentality, the Jordan mentality, the Brady mentality. I want that.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel has, obviously being a player himself, but the way he talks, he's acknowledged that the guys are different now, that there's a different way that you have to approach them. And I think one of his first things he ever said to us is like, my job is obviously to build the team and to win football games. That's what we're doing. But I also want to get these guys to maximize their ability so they can get paid, because your lifespan in this league
Yeah.
isn't very long. So that's not something that Bill Belichick was ever going to say. That Vince Lombardi, whoever you want to pick, Bill Walsh, like, no. The team is the thing, the only thing that matters here. You're going to do what we need you to do. I don't care about your dollars. This
Yeah.
is 2025, and that's got to be somewhere on your
Yeah.
list of things to do.
You have to reach guys and not turn off guys, but you still have to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
I think that's something like a Sean McVay does well, and I think we'll see if Ben Johnson does it well. I think Ben Johnson wants to do it well. And I think that he talks tough with his team, and he's even publicly criticized his team, body language of Caleb and some other guys,
Mm-hmm.
guys spending too much time in the training room, some kind of old school type of stuff. So it's an interesting mix, and all of these players are different. Some of them respond differently, but to me, some old tried and true things just don't change in what makes people successful and get the most of their ability. I think Caleb Williams or somebody who doesn't have that mentality, uh, you know, uh, can still be really successful. But can you be as successful as you could be?
Yeah.
And I think that the guys
Ben
who
Johnson has a
really,
challenge, right?
yeah, the guys who really reach their full potential have a little bit more of the grinder type makeup and mentality.
Yeah. Ben Johnson's going to have to figure out what buttons he can push
Yeah,
with Caleb to get the best out of him, because again, there is no denying his physical ability. He's
yeah.
got all the ability in the world to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but you got to bring the other stuff with it as well.
And he got really, there was a big story that came out before the year that really painted him in a bad light. And, maybe it's not that bad. I mean, I think we got to be careful too and not assuming too much. And we just got to watch what we see and let that be your guide. How is he playing, decision making wise in the structure of the offense? What is he bringing on top of it? All of those things. You still have to go back to that, but the how he's playing thing, he's not measuring up to Drake Maye either. So,
For sure.
in the way
I
it
want to hit
ties.
you with one more question before I let you go, and it's just because he's been someone that I've been fascinated with for a long time. He is now in Seattle quarterbacking the Seahawks after
Mhm.
getting the free agent deal, replacing Geno Smith, who got traded. Obviously, Sam Darnold came off a resurgence last year in Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell. And then right at the very end, it fell apart for him a little bit. And you sort of got
Yeah.
is it the same old Sam? Like, he had to be in a perfect situation. And even then, he couldn't quite carry it over the line. And yet, here through 7 weeks, he again looks like one of the better quarterbacks in the league. What are you seeing from
Yeah.
Sam? What are they saying about Sam in Seattle?
So seeing great stuff from him. They love him in Seattle. They think, super smart guy, accountable, gets along well with his teammates, all of those types of things. So I think some of that stuff at the end of last season was definitely on him, but it was also a little bit in terms of how they were playing. I don't think they were helping him as much either.
Mhm.
And so he was a little bit exposed there. Now in Seattle, he's been lights out, but they haven't been great on third down. So he's in a nicely managed offense. It's kind of the Shanahan offense where we see a lot of guys have good numbers. I do think though he's made real upper tier throws against the rush. Um, he's got a great instant connection with Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's one of the most
Mhm.
productive receivers in the league right now. It seems to always be open, and Darnold down the field has just been money. I mean, just great passes down the field, outside the numbers. I mean, he's really made difficult throws, staring down the barrel. I think it looks great. Uh, for them, what I want to see is like their run game's been real hit and miss. Does that even out? Is Sam Darnold playing well enough that people start defending the pass instead of the run? They get the run going, get some of that balance, take the pressure off. But watch third down, because I think that's been an area where they didn't have a high rate of completion last night, a high rate of conversion. It's been tough this season. And that's when it's really on the quarterback. And there have been some issues, I think, with the Shanahan type system in the drop back pass game. It's not you really plan for to marry your run and play actions really well, but
Mhm.
third down is a drop back game without any of that stuff. And so that's kind of what I want to see is how he grows in that area. Do they hit a wall in that area? Because in everything else, he's been a super upper tier guy so far this season.
And we talk about quarterback development. Jets, Carolina, San Francisco for a year as the backup, then
Yeah.
finally Minnesota, and now here in year 5, maybe finally being able to put down some roots. And this is the kind of player that you thought you were getting out of USC as the number 3 overall pick in
Yeah.
2018. It just, for some guys, situation, it just takes longer, whatever.
A lot of guys have gone to the Jets and had a hard time. It's a hard market.
Yeah.
The Jets, Giants, in Carolina obviously had a bad history there for a while too. So sometimes getting in the right place is everything. And sometimes getting in the right place after you've been in a wrong place and taken some lumps and survived it, come out the other side, second life.
Yeah, he for sure survived it. And you talked about the Jets. Woody Johnson at the fall owners meeting just said it would be nice if our quarterback could complete a pass. So I don't know that we'll be seeing Justin Fields anytime soon in the lineup. That might be an edict from upstairs, although the play on the field certainly would also indicate that that's
Yeah.
probably the right move. Mike, I really appreciate the time. Great insight as always. Love to do this again at some point.
Great.
Again, Mike Sando, a senior NFL writer for The Athletic. Trust me, read the content. You'll be smarter for it. Mike, appreciate you. Happy rest of the season. We still got 2.5 months and then the run to the playoffs. So it should be fun.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.